Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we will be discussing lesson 2 of our subject, Introduction to the Philosophy of the Human Person, entitled Methods of Philosophizing. So, let's get started. So at this time, since we are done with lesson 1 of our subject, Introduction to the Philosophy of the Human Person, we'll proceed to lesson 2, entitled Methods of Philosophizing. So let's start. So what you need to know. Now, in today's society, we encounter a lot of information from various sources such as the media and our interactions with friends, family, and members of the community. Most of the information we receive is helpful, but some may mislead us or it may even be utterly false. These kinds of information often have a negative impact on our lives. Now, let's have a pretest before we are going to proceed to our discussion. So, you are going to answer this in your philosophy activity notebook. Let's read the direction. Read each item carefully and use your notebook or activity notebook to write your answers. Number 1. It is the clear awareness and understanding of something. Is it letter A, truth, B, knowledge, C, claim, D, opinion? Number 2. These are statements which are observed to be real or truthful. Letter A, facts, B, claims, C, fallacies, D, opinions. Let's proceed to number 3. This is a series of statements that provide reasons to convince a person that a claim or opinion is truthful. Is it letter A, arguments, B, beliefs, C, fallacies, D, knowledge? Number 4. These are arguments based on faulty reasoning. Is it A, conclusion, B, opinions, C, explanations, D, fallacies? Let's proceed to number 4. These are arguments based on faulty reasoning. Is it A, conclusion, B, opinions, C, explanations, D, fallacies? Let's proceed to number 5. Are statements which need to be examined to determine whether they are true or false. Is it A, opinions, B, explanations, C, claims, D, arguments? Number 6. These are tendencies or influences that affect the views of people. Is it A, explanations, B, opinions, C, conclusion, and D, fallacies? Now, for number 7, we have this is a judgment based on certain facts. A, claims, B, conclusion, C, knowledge, D, explanations. Let's proceed to number 8. These are statements that assume a claim is true and provide reasons to support them. Is it A, fallacies, B, beliefs, C, arguments, D, explanations? Let's proceed to number 9. Statements that express convictions that are not easily explained by facts. Is it A, beliefs, B, arguments, C, claims, D, opinions? Number 10. These are comprised of statements that provide views on a certain matter. Letter A, claims, B, beliefs, C, knowledge, D, opinions. Number 11. A fallacy that uses emotions such as pity or sympathy. A, appeal to emotion, B, appeal to popular, C, appeal to force, and D, ad hominem. Number 12. Which fallacy assumes that what is true of a part is true for the whole? Letter A, begging the question, B, fallacy of division, C, fallacy of composition, D, begging the question. Number 13. What is the characteristic of appeal to the popular fallacy? A. Attacking the person presenting the argument instead of the argument itself. B. The idea is presented as acceptable because a lot of people accept it. C. Assuming that the thing or idea to be proven is true. D. The idea is presented as acceptable because a lot of people accept it. Number 14. A type of bias which focuses on a certain aspect of a problem while ignoring other aspects. A. Hindsight. B. Framing. C. Confirmation bias. D. Conflict of interest. Number 15. Which of the following is an example of confirmation bias? A. These soldiers who fought in the war are all bloodthirsty murderers. B. How can I accept his view that there is no God? I am a Christian. C. As the daughter of the accused, I believe I have the right to express my opinion on the issue of his alleged corrupt practices. D. I do not agree with this Western practice of placing aged parents in retirement homes. We as Filipinos should take care of our family members. Okay, so that is all for the pretest. That's multiple choice and you have to write all your answers in your philosophy activity notebook. Now let us proceed to the introduction. Now in the previous lesson, you learned about holistic and partial thinking in philosophy. Moreover, you were also able to see the value of philosophizing in achieving a broad understanding of your life. In this lesson, you will learn about the various ways of evaluating our own opinions. Moreover, you will also learn to distinguish between facts and opinions and reflect on concrete experiences in a philosophical way in order to come up with sound decisions. So this is quite interesting. So, have you encountered the following concepts below? Please copy the diagram below in your philosophy activity notebook and write your answers in your notebook. You have that fact and then opinion, meaning you are going to write down anything that comes into your mind when you hear the word fact, or anything that comes into your mind when you hear the word opinion. Okay, so let us proceed to what's new. Let's have here the directions. Read the statements on the side and imagine that you are part of the conversation. How will you react to the statement given or statements given? Write your answers in your activity notebook. Okay, so before we're gonna discuss about fact and opinion, let's have this activity first. It is entitled A Lover's Quarrel. So there are three friends who are in this convo or conversation. Friend 1. Did you hear about what happened between Carla and her boyfriend? Friend 2. What happened? Friend 1. They got a huge fight last night. Carla called me up. She was crying and she said that Mike hit her. Friend 3. Wait, what? That's not right. Mike came by my place last night and he was pretty shaken up. He had scratch marks on his arms and a bite on his left hand. He said Carla just attacked her and was accusing him of seeing another girl. Friend 1. No, Carla said it was Mike who started to hit her and she had to defend herself. Then, here's the space where you are going to write your answer or whatever your opinion. What can you say about after hearing this conversation? Okay. So let us proceed to the reading of the passage from the Plato's allegory of the cave. This is actually a very famous allegory. So I'm gonna read this one and later on we will have some activities too. We have here Plato's allegory of the cave. Some prisoners are chained inside a cave, facing the back wall. Behind them is a fire, with people passing in front of it. The prisoners cannot turn their heads and have always been chained this way. All they can see and hear are shadows passing back and forth and the echoes bouncing off the wall in front of them. One day, a prisoner is freed and dragged outside the cave. He is blinded by the light, confused, and resists being led outside. But eventually, his eyes adjust so that he is able to see clearly the things around him. And even the sun, he came to realize that the things he thought were real were merely like shadows of the real things. And the life outside of the cave is far better than his previous life in chains. He pities those still inside. He ventures back into the cave to share his discovery with the others, only to be ridiculed because he can hardly see. His eyes have trouble at first readjusting to the darkness. He tried to free the other prisoners, but they violently resisted. The other prisoners refused to be freed and led outside, and they even tried to kill him. Now I want you to answer the following questions in your philosophy activity notebook. What does this story mean? That's number 1. Number 2. How does this passage from Plato help you turn your attention toward the right thing? For example, truth, beauty, justice, and goodness. Okay, so what's in? Philosophical method, or we call it philosophical methodology, is the study of how to do philosophy. A common view among philosophers is that philosophy is distinguished by the ways that philosophers follow in addressing philosophical questions. There is not just one method that philosophers use to answer philosophical questions. Philosophy is concerned with determining the concept of truth. Truth lies at the heart of any inquiry. Truth, in metaphysics and philosophy of language, is the property of sentences, assertions, beliefs, thoughts, propositions that are said in ordinary discourse to agree with the facts or to state that the case is. It is most often used to mean being in accord with a fact or reality, or fidelity to an original or standard. Truth is also sometimes defined in modern contexts as an idea of truth to self or authenticity. So what is truth and why is it important? Now, knowledge is the clear awareness and understanding of something. It is the product of questions that allow for clear answers provided by facts. It is true knowing that we are able to determine what is true. Now, let's explore your knowledge by completing the following statements. Okay, I want you to answer also this one to fill in. Like, I know that you have to continue to fill in this statement. Then I know why you continue this statement, and I know how. Okay, same procedure, continue this statement. Still, you're going to answer this in your philosophy activity notebook. Now, these statements correspond to what is based on reality. This simply means that we know what is observable or evident in the real world. For example, I know that fishes live in water because fishes do live in water. Propositions or statements which are observed to be real or truthful are considered facts. There are statements, however, that are not evidently or immediately known to be true. For example, I know that my school is the best school in the city. This statement cannot be taken as true since it is simply not immediately evident. This statement is a claim, and further examination is required to establish whether it is true or false. Therefore, truthful statements can be considered as based on facts. Now, how do we know if something is true? Now, there are several views regarding truth. Philosophers emphasize the importance of belief as basis for determining truth. But philosophers who pondered upon the origins of knowledge doubted everything that there is to know about themselves and the world. For example, stating the very obvious thing we know about ourselves. For instance, I'm alive, I have a body, I can breathe. Do you believe that those statements apply to you? But of course, you will say, but as philosophers, we do not assume that every statement is true. In philosophy, systematic doubt is employed to help determine the truth. This means that every statement, claim, evidence, and experience is scrutinized and analyzed. Doubt has a very important purpose in philosophy as it drives out desire to discover the truth. Now let's apply systematic doubt and revise the statement to make them easier to scrutinize and analyze by rewriting the statements into questions. Okay, so you have, am I alive? Do I have a body? Or can I breathe? Now, how will you figure out the answers to these questions? The obvious answer would be to examine yourself to determine if indeed you are alive, that you have a body and you can breathe. Do you have a pulse? Can you feel your heartbeat? Do you have hands, arms, legs, feet, and head? Try to take a deep breath, then exhale. Are you able to do it? If you answered yes to all these questions, then you can conclude with certainty that the previous statements about yourself is true. You can now say, I am alive. I have a body. I can breathe. Okay. Now, a belief is true if it can be justified or proven true through the use of one's sense and if it is based on facts. Getting consensus, or meaning have an agreement or having people agree on a common belief, is another way of determining what is true, although this approach has certain limitations. Philosophers also believe that claims and beliefs should be tested in order to determine the truth. Determining the truth also requires that a person can prove a statement through action. Now, distinguishing opinion from truth. The ideas that we encounter in everyday life can be considered as truth or opinion. But what distinguishes from one from the other? Let us take a look at the following statements and determine which one states fact or opinion. Okay, let's start with number 1. You have to answer this one in your activity notebook too. Okay, let's try. Anyway, we will be discussing the answer later. Okay, number 1. It takes 30 minutes to walk from my home to school. Number 2. Living near the school is better because we don't have to spend much for transportation. Number 3. My sister ate the last piece of pizza. Number 4. My sister is a selfish person because she ate the last piece of pizza and did not share it with me. Number 5. The policeman firmly pushed the suspect to his knees and placed him in handcuffs. Number 6. The aggressive manner by which the policeman arrested the suspect is an example of brutality that characterizes our police force. Okay, now which statements are more factual based on these statements? Which do you think of among the statements are factual? Okay, I want you to examine for a moment. So, which among? Kindly name, or can you enumerate the numbers of the statements where you could say that it is factual or based on facts? And how about based on opinion? Okay. Now, if you answered statements 1, 3, and 5, then you are correct. Using the philosophical tools we learned, they fit into the category of facts since they contain ideas or information that are easily verifiable. Now, let's go back. That's number 1, number 3, and number 5. Okay? So these statements 1, 3, and 5 are easily verifiable. So this is based on facts. On the other hand, statements 2, 4, and 6 can be considered as opinions. These statements go beyond providing facts. It also provides conclusions or perspectives regarding certain situations. Opinions are also the basis for making arguments and convincing people that a certain claim is a fact. Now let's go back. That's number 2, 4, and 6 are considered to be opinions or example of opinions. Okay. Now, fact is something that is true and can be verified as such. You can find facts in legal records, scientific findings, encyclopedias, atlases, etc. In other words, facts are the truth and are accepted as such. Okay, you also have here facts tell us what happened and can be proven true or false. Okay. How about opinion? Now, opinions is stated here that opinions are attitudes or judgments that can be proven right or wrong. It is defined as a statement that holds the element of belief. It tells how someone feels. In other words, it is what someone believes or thinks and is not necessarily the truth. Okay. Let's have the definition of terms. Opinions. These are statements that go beyond providing facts. Conclusion is a judgment based on a certain facts. Beliefs are statements that express convictions that are not easily and clearly explained by facts. Explanations are statements that assume the claim to be true and provide reasons why the statement is true. Arguments are a series of statements that provide reasons to convince the reader or listener that a claim or opinion is truthful. Fallacies are arguments based on faulty reasoning. Bias is a disproportionate weight in favor of or against an idea or thing, usually in a way that is close-minded, prejudicial, or unfair. Okay. There are key differences between fact and opinion. The difference between fact and opinion in following grounds. Number 1. The fact is described as the statement that can be verified or proven to be true. Opinion is an expression of judgment or belief about something. Number 2. Fact relies on observation or research, while opinion is based on assumption. Number 3. The fact is an objective reality, whereas opinion is a subjective statement. 4. Facts can be verified with the help of evidence or statistics. On the contrary, an opinion is not supported by any evidence. 5. Facts explain what actually happened, unlike an opinion, which represents a perception about something. Number 6. One important feature of a fact is that it is universal and does not differ from person to person. As against this, every human being has a different opinion on a particular subject, and so it varies from one person to another. Okay, so what are fallacies? So arguments often take the form of statements that are either claims of facts and are phrased in such a way that they seem reasonable. However, a number of arguments may be based on faulty reasoning, and these kinds of arguments are called fallacies. Now, some of the fallacies may be intentional, as the person making is desperate to convince you to accept his or her argument. Now, there are examples of fallacies. So we have here 3 columns. The first column, these are the name of fallacy, its characteristics, and an example to it. So we will be discussing one by one. Let's start with ad hominem. The fallacy ad hominem, meaning it is characterized by attacking the person presenting the argument instead of the argument itself. For example, this is the example. Of course, he believes that the government is flawed. He is a rebel and a communist. So, you are attacking the person by presenting an argument. Okay? You are attacking the person presenting the argument. Because the person is a rebel and a communist, that's why you said that he believes that the government is flawed. So you're not already talking about the argument itself. Next is appeal to force. It is characterized by using the threat of force or an undesirable event to advance an argument. For example, if this peace agreement will not be signed by the government, then we will have no recourse but to go to war. Okay? So that's appeal to force. It's just an self-explanatory. So using a threat of force. Next is appeal to emotion. It is characterized by using emotions such as pity or sympathy. Like, all these charges are baseless. This is just plain harassment. Can't you see how this is affecting my family? Okay, so this appeal to emotion, because the person is already trying to seek, pity or sympathy towards his or her family. Okay, let's proceed to the fourth one. Appeal to the popular. It is characterized by the idea is presented as acceptable because a lot of people accept it. Example, every boy your age already has a girlfriend. You should go find one. Meaning you are generalizing. Just because almost everybody are doing it, you have to do it. That's appeal to the popular. So that is still a fallacy. Okay, let's proceed. We have appeal to tradition, characterized by the idea is acceptable because it has been true for a long time. Like, marriage should be between a man and a woman. It has been so for a long time in this country. It should remain so today and in the future. Okay? Because we know very well that LGBTQ is already exists, and we have same-sex marriage are even legalized already in some countries. Okay? So it's not true all the time. That's appeal to tradition. Next will be begging the question. We have assuming the thing or idea to be proven is true, also known as circular argument. Like, I have the right to free speech, therefore you cannot stop me from talking. Okay, let's proceed to cause and effect. We have assuming cause and effect relationship between unrelated events. We have example, ever since you brought that sweater, everything has been going wrong in your life. You should get rid of it. Okay, so it's obviously two unrelated events, meaning wearing of that sweater versus those like things that going on in your life, the bad happenings that you have experienced in your life. There's really no connection at all. Then let's have fallacy composition or fallacy of composition. It's characterized as assuming that what is true of a part is true to the whole. Example, these cases of robbery in this district have convinced me that the city has become a den of thieves and criminals. So just because it happened in a certain particular place, let's say for example in a whole let's say in a certain barangay in Bacong, there was a murder that happens. You cannot see that the entire Bacong, or let's say there's one murderer in a particular barangay in Bacong. So you cannot say that the entire town of Bacong are murderers. Here, fallacy of division. Assuming that what is true for the whole is true for its parts. Like, example, you come from a family of doctors and intellectuals. Surely you can do better in this course. Okay? So this is also a fallacy because we know very well that no two individuals are alike. Everyone is unique. So you cannot compare each one from or among the family members. Okay, let's proceed. Now, when looking at opinion, be aware of bias or the personal views of the person presenting it. Biases are not necessarily errors in reasoning but refer to tendencies or influences which affect the views of people. The following are some of the common biases. Let's have it composes of 3 columns. We have bias, characteristics, and example. Same is true with from fallacies. So we have your correspondence bias or attribution effect. Characteristic. Tendencies to judge a person's personality by his or her actions without regard for the external factors or influence. Example, these soldiers who fought in the war are all bloodthirsty murderers. Meaning to say, you didn't consider or you tend to disregard the external factors or influence of that action because they are soldiers, because they are, that is their call of duty. Okay, so that's it. Next is confirmation bias. Tendency to look for and readily accept information which fits one's own beliefs or views and to reject ideas or views that go against it. Like, how can I accept his view that there is no God? I'm a Christian. Okay, so you are referring to those people who are atheists. Like, you didn't even ask how come they become an atheist, or there are different reasons, so you have to be open-minded. Here is framing. Focusing on a certain aspect of a problem while ignoring other aspects. Example, preliminary evidence has still not pointed out the actual cause of the plane crash, but investigators are currently focusing on the possibility of pilot error. Meaning, the investigation has not yet been done, but then there's already a bias from the investigators because they're already focusing on the possibility of pilot error. That's framing. Let's proceed to hindsight. The tendency to see past events as predictable or to ascribe a pattern to historical events. Example, Magellan's assault on Mactan Island was a foolhardy venture made by an overconfident, careless man who underestimated the valor of the native Filipinos. Okay, that's because of historical events. We just tried to be biased, that they also have their own purpose, reason why they came. Next, conflict of interest. A person or group is connected to or has a vested interest in the issue being discussed. For instance, there's an example. As the daughter of the accused, I believe I have the right to express my opinion on the issue of his alleged corrupt practices. Obviously, since she's the daughter of the accused, she could really, of course, express her opinion on the issue of his alleged corrupt practices to the person who accused them. Okay? That's conflict of interest. Next is cultural bias. You have analyzing an event or issue based on one's cultural standards. Example, I do not agree with this Western practice of placing aged parents in retirement homes. We Filipinos take care of our family members. That is based on our cultural standards. So this is still an example of cultural bias because the person is talking who are given this statement, who is giving this statement, is basically culturally biased because he or she is not open-minded enough to know the reasons behind people living in a different country or different countries why They couldn't let their parents stay at their house, probably because they have work to do. They are very busy working, so they can still continue supporting their parents in terms of money, like paying the retirement homes and paying the nurses and the likes. Okay, methods of philosophy lead to wisdom and truth. The methods of philosophy will help in learning the process of doing philosophy in a systematic way. On the other hand, philosophizing is to think or express oneself in a philosophical manner. Although philosophy is an organized body of knowledge, the subject matter of philosophy is questions, which have three major characteristics. Number one, philosophical questions have answers, but the answers remain in dispute. Number two, philosophical questions cannot be settled by science, common sense, or faith. Number three, philosophical questions are of perennial intellectual interest to human beings. Now, the methodology or method that philosophers use to address philosophical questions is we call critical thinking. Now, what is then critical thinking? Critical thinking is a careful, reflective, rational, and systematic approach to questions of very general interest. Critical thinking means understanding philosophy and refraining from merely giving claims, but through careful thought, one's reasons through to argumentation. The scientific method also leads to wisdom and truth because it uses an evidence-based approach to come up with its conclusion. In this method, all truths are supported by facts that can easily be tested or proven again through experiments, logical reasoning, or observation. Now, how will you determine the truth from opinion? An understanding of opinions and facts and the mean to distinguish one from the other can further improve our understanding and appreciation of varied views and ideas. The ability to determine truth goes hand in hand with a holistic perspective and enables us to make wiser decisions, especially in choosing the ideas and views which we find acceptable. A critical mind aided by philosophy can help us from the own personal point of view that can guide us in making decisions and actions which we are faced with a problem. Now, philosophy can help us determine ideas that are truthful and acceptable, which can use to form our own views regarding certain matters. Now, Bullock and Pasqua in 2008 said, critical thinking is a lifelong process of self-assessment that further consists of defining, analyzing, and devising solutions, arriving at reasonable and informed conclusions, applying understanding and knowledge to new and different problems, willingness to say I do not know. There are attributes of critical thinkers that includes looks for evidence to support assumption and beliefs, adjusts opinions, looks for proof, examines the problem, and rejects irrelevant and innocent information. Now, how to evaluate truth from opinions in different situations? We have here using the methods of philosophizing. Now, a method of philosophizing is a process of determining the truth of drawing conclusions from a statement using various philosophical methods such as Socratic, dialectic, scientific, and historical. So when you evaluate information, it is very important to distinguish between fact and opinion. How do we know if something is true? Now, philosophers emphasize the importance of beliefs as a basis for determining truth. It is said that there are instances when we have to unlearn something so that we may learn anew. Philosophers question that they knew and even analyzed their methods of knowing in order to have a better understanding of themselves and of the world. The discussion on truth is a part of philosophical studies on knowledge, where philosophers explore the nature of knowledge and the ways of knowing. Both the Socratic and dialectic method are based on a discussion between two or more people who may carry differing views but wish to pursue the truth by seeking an agreement with one another. Meanwhile, the scientific method is a process to evaluate truth from opinions in different situations using the methods of philosophizing, determining truth or knowledge through experimentation, inductive and deductive reasoning, and hypothesis or theory testing. Now, the scientific method, also called empirical method, is a process of determining truth or knowledge through experimentation, inductive and deductive reasoning, and hypothesis or theory testing. Now, what is logic? Logic is the truth based on reasoning and critical thinking. It includes analysis and construction of arguments. It serves as a path for freedom from half-truths and deception. Now, there are types of reasoning. We have the deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is also known as top-down logic, while inductive reasoning is known as bottom-up logic. As you can see, we have here a triangular form or shape with conclusion on top, main points at the middle, and supporting data or facts or examples and evidence. Okay, we have the same entries here, same under inductive reasoning, but we differ on the arrows. Here the arrow is from top to down. That is why we call it top-down logic. Here the arrow is from the bottom going up. That is why we call it bottom-up logic. Now let us discuss further what is deductive reasoning, meaning conclusions are given first, or generalizations or conclusions are given first prior to specific examples, facts, and evidences. Whereas for inductive reasoning, the data, the facts, specific examples are given prior to the conclusion or generalization. Now let us explain further about deductive reasoning. So deductive reasoning, in this type of reasoning, conclusion comes first, followed by main points, and the last will be the supporting data, facts, examples, and the evidences. General idea comes first before the specific or particular idea. While inductive reasoning, in this type of reasoning, supporting data, facts, examples, and evidences comes first, followed by the main points, and conclusions will be the last part. This is the opposite of deductive reasoning because a particular idea comes first before the general idea. Okay, now let us proceed to the different tasks. Let's start with task number 1. Copy an article from any available newspaper or magazine. You have to write all your tasks or place all your tasks in your philosophy activity notebook. Identify the facts and opinions presented in the article by underlining the facts and encircling the opinions. Determine how you will verify the facts and opinions stated. Write your answers in your notebook. Task number 2. Let's read first the rubrics. The content is 15, organization and structure is 10, total of 25 points. So you have to write an editorial. So newspaper editorials reflect and express the newspaper's opinion on an issue. Editorials are opinion stories, but in order for an editorial to be effective, it must be backed up not only by opinion but also by facts and evidence. Moreover, the editorial article must also include relevant data. Now, here's the instructions of task number 2. You have to write a 3 to 4 paragraph editorial about the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic. Write it in a short bond paper, but you have to attach this one in your activity notebook. You may use the following guide question for your editorial. Decide what your position is on the issue. Give your opinion as to why you have selected this position on the issue. Then state the facts, evidence, and data, if available, to back up your position. Then state the opposing position. Provide the facts that support the opposing position or opinion. Dispute, challenge, and question the opposing opinions backed up with facts. Then, how will you capture and appeal to your readers? So you have to make this task number 2. Okay, let's proceed to the continuation of this task. What you have learned. So, complete the statement below or write your answer in your activity notebook. The first statement is, I learned that truth is. So, you have to complete that one. Then, I feel that truth is important because. Then, the third statement, I commit to uphold the truth by. Okay? So, you have to complete those three statements. Now, let us proceed to task number 3. Here's the directions. Observe and study the comic strip below and answer the question that follow. Write your answer in your notebook. So I'm gonna read the conversation and the comic strip. So this is in Filipino language or Tagalog. So we have here a biker and there's a person inside the car. Okay, so they are having a conversation. The biker said, makabubuti sa kalikasan ang pag-commute gamit ang bisikleta. So in English, he's trying to say that it is environment friendly to commute using a bicycle. Then, there's a person inside the car said, we, laka lang pambili ng kotse. Or, he's trying to say that, oh, you just said that because you can't afford to buy a car. Okay? Like he's trying to brag. Like, and look at the reaction of the biker. Okay? And here's a policeman. The policeman said, dapat ata pati dila mo titikitan ko eh. Okay? So, the policeman is trying to say that maybe I'll include your tongue to be fined. Or I'll gonna, give fine or issue a ticket because of your words. Something like that. Okay? So, number 1. Look at the comic strip. Do you agree with the reasoning of the person inside the car? Why or why not? So you have to provide your answer. You have to copy the questions, by the way. Number 2. If you are the biker, how would you react to the remarks of the person inside the car? Okay. So you need to reflect and take your time in answering these questions. Okay. Let us proceed to task number 4. So we have here the directions. Read the statements below and answer the questions that follow. And write your answers in your notebook. So we have here 8 statements and these are the questions. Okay? So I will just going to read you the statements, then I will gonna read the questions later on. Number 1. The sun is the center of the solar system. 2. Asia is the largest continent in the world. 3. God made the world in 7 days. 4. Man has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Number 5. China's continued presence in the spot list is a violation of international law. Number 6. A person must always consider the interests of his or her family before his or her happiness. Number 7. Citizens have the right to take up arms and overthrow an oppressive government. 8. The President has done very little to uphold democracy and look after the interests of the Filipino people. Now, here are the questions. Which among the previous statements are true? You just have to mention the numbers. Okay? Number 2, or enumerate the numbers. Number 2, were you able to easily judge the truthfulness of the statements? Why or why not? 3. Which of the statements are obviously true? Which ones required more thought to determine their truthfulness? Number 4. Which of these statements may be true for others but may not be true in your judgment? Number 5. Which of the previous statements do you personally believe to be true but may be disputed? Disputed means maybe disagreed by other people. Okay. So that's it. You have to answer that, complete that task in your philosophy activity notebook. Now let's proceed to an assessment. The assessment consists of two parts. We have part 1 and part 2. Let's start with part 1. So you have to identify the concepts described in each number and choose your answers in the from the word pool below. Write your answers in your notebook. Okay, so we have here the word pool. All you have to do is select your answers based on the concepts described in each number. Number 1, it is the study of how to do philosophy. Number 2, a fallacy in which the idea is presented as acceptable because a lot of people accept it. Number 3, it is a disproportionate weight in favor of or against an idea or thing, usually in a way that is close-minded, prejudicial, or unfair. Number 4, it is a judgment based on certain facts. Number 5, it is the clear awareness and understanding of something. Number 6, it lies at the heart of any inquiry. Number 7, a fallacy assuming the thing or idea to be proven is true, also known as circular argument. Number 8, a series of statements that provide reasons to convince the reader or listener that a claim or opinion is truthful. Number 9, a type of reasoning where the general idea comes first before the specific or particular idea. Number 10, it is a statement that holds the element of belief. It tells how someone feels. Okay. Part 2, apply systematic doubt in analyzing the statement below. Describe how you will determine its truthfulness and write your answer in your activity notebook. The statement goes this way: I am a good student. Okay. So, you have to complete the assessment for both part 1 and part 2. And to end this video lesson, let's have a quote. This quote is from a famous contemporary philosopher, Soren Kierkegaard. And the quote goes this way: life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I hope that you have learned something in today's video lesson. So please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye!